Is candidate for sheriff, Randy Gentry. How's it doing outside there, Randy?
Oh, it's still raining.
Is it still raining?
Still raining.
Unbelievable. Randy, now, before we get into some questions for you, tell us a little bit about your background, your history.
I was born and raised here in Ashtabula County. Born and raised in Orwell, Ohio. Graduated from Grand Valley High School there. Joined the Orwell Fire Department. I was on the fire department there for many years. I was a captain on the fire department. I went to school to become an emergency medical technician here in the state of Ohio. Worked for South Central Ambulance for a while as an emergency medical technician. Got into law enforcement in 1988. I was hired by the then sheriff, William K. Johnston. He's retired now. Worked there in the sheriff's department for a period of time before going to the North Kingsville Police Department. I worked there under retired Chief Chuck Hitzel.
Yeah.
Yep.
When was that?
That was 1990. 1990. That was when I worked there.
Oh, okay.
That's when Chuck first took over as chief.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't move to North Kingsville until I think 2000.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you were gone then.
Yeah. Yeah. 1996. I took a position with the Andover Police Department, and then in 2005, I was promoted, and they appointed me as their chief of police, and that's the position I currently hold.
Now, do you have staff there? I mean, do you have officers working for you?
I have 14 officers on my
You do?
department. Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes, 14 officers. Andover is a very unique. It's a very unique place, sort of like Geneva on the Lake. In the summertime, with the influx of people down there, you know, one campground alone down there, they top out at about 20,000 people in the summertime. That's one campground.
Then you have Pymatoonie.
You've got the Pymatoonie State Park, which is the third largest state park in the state. You know, you've probably got about 5 or 6 of those campgrounds down there. Holiday Camplands is probably the biggest.
Right.
They're about 20,000 people in the summertime.
That many?
Yeah.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, I've run the security out there for Mr. Keitlinger since 1996. So I'm still his chief of security out there, as well as the chief in Andover.
Okay.
So it's a very, I mean, in the summertime, the Andover area just has such a huge influx of tourism. You know, it's nothing to have an influx of 20 to 50,000 people. At one time, I went to our EMA director, and I told him, I said, you know, you guys are all going by these census numbers.
Sure. As
population down here. I said, you're not taking into account the number of people that are down here in the summer. And this all came about when we had a small tornado come through Andover.
Okay.
A few years back. And I told him, I said, if any major event like that were to happen at one of these campgrounds with 20,000 people in it, are we ready for this? Do we have do we have a plan in place to handle such a disaster? And once they started looking at it, they realized that they didn't. So we then got together. We formed a group down there. We got all the police, state highway patrol, fire, EMS. We even got the agencies from Pennsylvania to be included in this. Both state parks, Ohio and PA. And we all sat down and we actually laid out a plan, an emergency plan, a disaster plan just for that Pymatoonie area.
You know, I never thought of that. I mean, I know it's busy, and that's one of our rides that we'll take maybe in the summertime to go see the fish and all that.
You got to see the carp. You got to see them.
But I guess I never knew the numbers, how busy that area is. I mean, Andover's a nice little town.
Right.
It's a beautiful little town. They used to have a theater there. I don't think the theater's open anymore.
It's reopened.
Did it really?
Someone bought it. They remodeled it.
Are they showing movies?
Oh yes.
You're kidding.
Oh yes.
In that little old theater right there.
In that theater.
I'll be darned.
Yep. Yeah, a gentleman bought that, remodeled the whole inside. You know, it's nice in there now.
I'll be darned. I have to check that out.
Oh yeah.
You know, I would go back. You were too young. You probably weren't even born then. I remember back in the early 50s as a little tiny boy, there was a major explosion in Andover at a diner, I believe it was, or a restaurant or something.
Isley's.
Isley's, that's right.
Yes.
That's right. And my dad had just left there that morning for had breakfast. He was worked for the veterans, and so he had stopped there for breakfast and went on to his little route. And I remember that was national news at the time. That was national news, and I was just sticks in my mind about it.
You know, there's a lot of the historians and stuff that in Andover there. A lot of the people that were, you know, that went through that lived there at that time. There's a lot of history with that explosion.
Yeah.
You know, that is something I think that changed